The latest episode of the Pokemon anime just aired in Japan shows Ash travelling back to Kanto and finally reuniting with Brock and Misty. The original trio of the original series together again at last. The original Indigo League series of the anime was my first introduction to Pokemon, as I'm sure it was for many of you watching. To this day, I can still watch it and be instantly transported back to my childhood, sitting too close to the telly, munching down on a bowl of cereal, just waiting to see what adventures Ash and the gang get up to this week. So all of this has inspired me to do a little top 10 list of my most memorable episodes of the original series. Although bear in mind, these are my most memorable episodes, not necessarily the ones that I think are the best, just episodes that stick out to me. Before we do get into that though, I just want to quickly remind everyone that I'll be doing a giveaway for Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, and all you need to do is just comment on one of my videos and you'll be entered into the draw. I'll be randomly picking one winner close to the game's release, so comment down below, join the discussion to be in with a chance to win. Anyway, that's enough of that, on with the countdown. Starting off the list at number 10, it's who gets to keep Togepi. In the very first episode of the show, we saw Ho-Oh flying over the rainbow, letting us know that there are many more Pokemon out there waiting to be discovered. This episode delivered on that promise with the reveal of Togepi. A few episodes earlier, Ash found a mysterious egg in Grand Park Canyon, and now the egg finally hatches and we are introduced to Togepi, a brand new Pokemon from the upcoming Generation 2 games. Ash, Misty, Brock, and even Meowth all fight over who should get to keep Togepi, each believing that they deserve it the most. One thing that stands out to me about this episode is just the excitement that all these characters have over this newly discovered Pokemon. And I think that reflects what we as kids felt at the time as well. We were all just like, oh my god, it's a new Pokemon! I need to have it! It actually reminds me of the first time one of my friends managed to get some Neo Genesis cards imported from Japan. We all went crazy offering him all sorts of mad trades just so we could get our hands on a little tiny taste of what Gen 2 was going to be. In the end though, Togepi decides it wants to go with Misty. Seeing as Misty was the first thing Togepi saw when it hatched, it just instantly thought Misty was its mother, and it formed a bond that will last a very long time. One odd thing about this episode though, before the egg hatches, everyone's wondering what kind of Pokemon is going to hatch out of this egg. And Misty and Brock both hope for a Tentacruel and a Golem? Really, guys? I mean, I know egg mechanics weren't exactly a thing back in Gen 1, but do you really expect a fully evolved Pokemon to hatch out of a little tiny egg? On to number 9. Coming in at number 9 is Dig Those Diglett. You might be wondering, why is this episode on this list? I mean, it's a pretty decent episode, but apart from the evolution of Ekans and coughing into Arbok and wheezing, nothing really big happened. Well, as it turns out, this was actually the first episode that I ever saw, so it holds a very special place in my heart, and it was the turning point that made me a Pokemon fan. You see, when Pokemon first came onto the scene, I actually hated it. Well, saying I hated it is wrong. I never actually watched an episode or touched the games or anything like that. I just found the kids who are always outside my dad's house always going, Pikachu, Pikachu, to be really, really annoying. Then I saw this episode while I was staying at my dad's, funnily enough, and I loved it. So afterwards, I was right outside with those kids, taking my first steps into a fandom which has lasted me for many, many years. The episode itself is solid with some nice laughs and a good environmentalist message all throughout. And who could forget the chants of Diglett and Dugtrio? At number 8, Mystery at the Lighthouse. One thing that immediately stands out about this episode is the dark and mysterious atmosphere. I mean, it is called Mystery at the Lighthouse. After Ash catches himself a Krabby, the gang decide to check out a nearby lighthouse where they find Bill. Yes, Bill from the games. Now, as anyone who has played the games knows, Bill is a huge Pokemaniac with a great collection of rare Pokemon. So you know if Bill's showing up, you're gonna get something good. Bill tells Ash that he's looking for the largest Pokemon to have ever existed. And then suddenly, it appears. The silhouette of an absolutely enormous Dragonite. Now, according to the games, Dragonite is meant to be about 7 foot tall, but this thing is as big as a lighthouse. It's massive. Despite not being a legendary Pokemon, Dragonite itself actually had an air of mystery to many of us back in the day, seeing as it was one of the hardest Pokemon to obtain for yourself in Pokemon Red and Blue. So Dragonite was the perfect fit for an episode like this. I don't think the episode would be anywhere near as memorable if the mystery of the lighthouse was like a gigantic Weedle or something like that. But as usual, Team Rocket show up to ruin the day, scaring that Dragonite away. You'd think Bill would be upset by this. He'd been seeking this Pokemon for a very, very long time and wanted to know everything that could possibly be about it. But no, he's just happy to have seen it for himself with his own eyes. Bill understands that the Pokemon world is bigger than any one person and that there are still many more mysteries yet to be uncovered. At number 7, Charmander the Stray Pokemon. This episode starts off with the gang encountering a Charmander on the travels. Ash tries to catch it for himself, only to find that it already has a trainer and is waiting for him to come back. Later on, they stop off at a Pokemon Center and overhear a trainer called Damien, who sounds like a bad Spinal Tap reject, bragging about how he abandoned his Charmander, or
Charmander,
as he likes to say, for being too weak. Ash, Brock and Misty quickly brave the storm to rescue this Charmander. The flame on its tail is very weak, so they rush back to the Pokemon Center to try and heal it back up. It's stated in this episode that if the flame on a Charmander's tail goes out, it will die. Charmander was my favourite of the Gen 1 starter Pokemon, as I imagine it was for many of you out there as well. So seeing your favourite in such a vulnerable position and so close to death, it's just heart-wrenching. Even more so when after Charmander is healed, he goes back to wait for Damien, just showing how loyal he is to this trainer that literally abandoned him and left him to die. At the end of the episode, after a battle with Team Rocket, Damien returns to take Charmander back after seeing just how strong he's become. But now after realising just how cruel Damien was to him, Charmander responds with a nice big flamethrower to the face and joins Ash instead. It's right, Charmander lad. Number 6, Bye Bye Butterfree. Yep, we all knew this one was coming. Episodes where Ash has to say goodbye to a Pokemon are pretty much standard these days. But back then, this was huge! Butterfree was the first Pokemon that Ash ever caught, and it was the first one he had to say goodbye to. The gang comes across a flock of Butterfree flying above the sea. Brock explains that it's egg-laying season, so Ash encourages Butterfree to go and find himself a mate. Butterfree sets his sights on this pink-coloured Butterfree, and she flat out rejects him every time. Doesn't want anything to do with him. After some hijinks with Team Rocket, Butterfree saves the day, showing his true potential, and the pink Butterfree sees just how much of a stud he is. There's a tearful farewell between Ash and Butterfree, culminating in a montage showing all the times they had together, starting from when Ash first caught him as a Caterpie. Ultimately, this episode shows that Ash will always put the needs of his Pokemon in front of his own. And even though you may be sad to say goodbye to a friend, you can still be happy for them too. Number 5, Go West Young Meowth. Meowth was always a bit of a mystery. Is he a member of Team Rocket or is he one of the Pokemon? Why does he stand upright and why does he talk? Well, we got answers in this episode which delved straight into Meowth's backstory. At its heart, this episode is a story of unrequited love. Meowth, who at the time was a young street cat living on the streets, is enamoured with a posh upper-class Meowth called Meowsy, who doesn't want anything to do with a good-for-nothing street cat. To try and impress her, Meowth makes it his aim to walk and talk like a human, and slowly and surely, he succeeds. Only to have Meowsy throw it back in his face and call him a freak. I always like the episodes which show the more human side to Team Rocket, like Holy Matrimony or Holiday Hijinks, but this one is the best by far. It's filled with a ton of great moments and you find yourself rooting for Meowth all the way through. Plus the noise that Persian makes cracks me up every time. This is an utterly heartbreaking story that really endears you to one of the series' main baddies. It showed that Meowth has a soft side to him, and that behind that tough street cat exterior is just a Pokemon that wanted to be loved. Aww.
Once again,
she sells seashells by the seashore.
Meows, me mo.
At number 4, it's Volcanic Panic. There's no doubt that Charizard was the strongest member of Ash's team, but there was one problem. One really, really big problem. Charizard just would not listen to Ash. But when facing Blaine, Cinnabar Island's gym leader, Charizard finds a worthy opponent in Magmar and is determined to be victorious in battle. As a kid whose favourite Pokemon was Charizard, this was the moment I was waiting for. Ash and Charizard working together in one of the most exciting battles in the whole series. I actually thought Charizard literally flew into space and circled the globe to do that seismic toss on Magmar. Kinda didn't get the whole visual metaphor thing at that age. So they win the battle and Ash earns himself the Volcano badge. You think this is it? Ash and Charizard are ready to take on the final gym and then storm the Pokémon League together? But no, Ash just gets a face full of flamethrower. Charizard just wanted a good battle. It wasn't actually until the episode Charizard Chills in the Orange Island series that Charizard finally begins to obey Ash. But whenever they'd show that episode on the telly, they'd always go straight back to the beginning and show the whole series again. So it took a very long time for us to actually see Ash and Charizard working together at last. In at number 3, friends and foe alike. The whole series had been leading up to this moment. Ash had finally reached the Indigo Plateau and was now competing in the Pokémon League. During his time at the Pokémon League, Ash befriends another trainer called Richie, who's actually very similar to Ash. He's got a similar look and even has some of the same Pokémon. And unlike a lot of Ash's other rivals from the show, we actually love Richie from the get-go. He's a good lad. But oh no, as it turns out, Ash and Richie have to face each other in the next round. Now, as anyone who's ever entered a real-life Pokémon tournament before knows, you only ever seem to face a friend when it really matters the most. And this was very true for Ash. This was the deciding battle. If he lost this one, Ash's hopes and dreams of winning the Pokémon League would be shattered. And they were. Richie won. We were all absolutely devastated for Ash. We'd spent so long following his adventures, just desperate to see him fulfill his goals. We were as invested as Ash was. But at the same time, you can't help but just feel glad for Richie. Richie won the battle fair and square, and Ash should have known better than to bring Charizard with him, a Pokemon he knows won't listen. Richie deserved to win, and Ash recognised that himself, showing to all of us that it is okay to lose sometimes. But come on, Ash lad, you could have won something in the past 20 years, and no, the Orange Islands do not count. The time has come. It's for the best, I know it. Yep, it's Pikachu's goodbye. What is there to say about this episode that hasn't been said before? It pulled at the heartstrings of an entire generation of children, and just saying the name of the episode can still stir up emotions 20 years later. When Ash and the gang find a group of wild Pikachu in the forest, Ash feels that this is where Pikachu belongs and that he'll be better off without him. As a kid, it was entirely possible to think that Ash would leave Pikachu. I mean, it happened with Butterfree, it can happen again. Also, you don't really think about the whole marketing aspect of things when you're that age. Ash says goodbye to Pikachu and runs off in floods of tears, cueing a montage showing all the great times they spent together. And the song that plays on top of it, oh, I dare you not to cry. I always remember watching this episode at a friend's house, and his cousin was there and she was all like, I don't like Pokemon. Anyway, she watched it with us and we all knew what was coming, but she didn't. So during the montage of Ash and Pikachu, we all looked over to her and she was in floods of tears. Yeah, doesn't like Pokemon. As Ash comes to a stop, we see Pikachu in the distance backlit by the sun. All the other Pikachu from the forest cheer on as Pikachu runs and leaps into Ash's arms, solidifying a friendship and a bond that will last forever. And at number 1, it's Pokemon I Choose You. Yes, the very first episode of the Pokemon anime takes the top spot. I didn't actually see this episode for a very long time. I don't know why, I think I just managed to miss it every time it was repeated. For the longest time, the only way I could experience this episode was in comic form, which I think came free with an issue of the official Nintendo magazine. It wasn't anything special, it was just like screenshots with speech bubbles and that, but it was the only way I could experience this piece of Pokemon history. After arriving late to Professor Oak's lab to start his Pokemon journey, Ash finds that Professor Oak has ran out of starter Pokemon, all of them given to trainers who are on time. Instead, Professor Oak gives Ash a Pikachu, and it was love at first sight. Actually, no it wasn't. Pikachu didn't want anything to do with Ash. It's been Ash's dream to have his own Pokemon and go on his own Pokemon adventure, but nothing is going as planned. In an attempt to try and catch himself a Pidgey, Ash throws a rock at what turns out to be a very, very angry Spearow. Come on, Ash lad, you're not in the Safari Zone, you can't just throw rocks at Pokemon. This causes Ash and Pikachu to be chased by an entire flock of very angry Spearow, and Pikachu is injured in the process. Cornered by Spearow in stormy weather, Ash stands before them and makes a speech that would endear him to all of our hearts, just showing the determination and the lengths that he will go to protect a Pokemon in need. Pikachu is inspired and leaps into the air, taking down the entire flock of Spearow with a powerful electric attack. As the storm settles, Ash and Pikachu look above and see a mysterious and unknown Pokemon flying over the rainbow. The combination of all these events show that the Pokemon world is a dangerous, exciting and mysterious place where dreams and adventures await.
What's that?
There is no data. There are still Pokemon yet to be identified.
So that was my top 10 list of my most memorable episodes of the Pokemon Indigo League series. What did you think? What are your most memorable episodes? Let us know in the comments section down below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to keep up to date with all my latest content. So, thanks for watching, and until next time, ta-da!